It's our third and final panel for today. It's called Marketing Insights to Drive Real Results. Our moderator today is Lance Winter, Vice President of Communications for the Hayes Caldwell Economic Development Partnership. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lance and the panelists to do some self-introductions.
All right, the last panel for the day. They saved the best for last right here. Gotcha.
Woo!
Yeah. Gotcha, Teddy. Yeah, all right. All right, marketing insights that drive real results. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Not theory, not fluff, real strategy, real tools, real stories that actually help you grow your business. You don't need a multi-million-dollar budget to market effectively. You need clarity, consistency, and a customer-focused message. And today we have a group of exceptional marketing minds that are going to help us unpack that. So let's go ahead and start here. Jessie, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jessie Woodhead, founder of Woodhead Studio, which is a branding and creative agency based in Dripping Springs. After a 20-something year career in ad agency and corporate land, I am very lucky to now be able to focus my time and energy working directly with businesses of all shapes and sizes, creating brands and brand stories that really matter. To the last panel's point, I think I'm one of the few people that went to school for what I am still doing. So shout out for University of Texas Ad School. So happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Adreas Urrego. I'm a Colombian immigrant who moved to the US 20 years ago with one dream. I wanted to live a better life. And today, I'm the founder and CEO of Moil app, where our dream is to empower those with less access to actually live a better life through better employment and helping SMBs through actually technology to help bridge those gaps that actually slow them down and don't allow them to, like we mentioned earlier, to find the best candidates. So our main goal today is to really help economic development. And the way we do it is by helping candidates create skilled workers, offline workers, create a resume with their voice in just 5 minutes or just type it in. We give them a digital presence and connect them immediately with companies that actually require their skills. And then on the SMB side is the exact same thing, right? We help you build a business plan with just 21 questions to actually connecting you to those employees that require the skills that your company needs. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it as we go. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you to everyone that makes this happen. Thank you to my local Buda Chamber of Commerce and the Buda EDC for the massive support.
Hey there, my name is Stephanie Johnson. I am the owner of Stephanie Gizella Design and Marketing. You guys are nice. I have over 10 years of experience with design and marketing. I've been in corporate retail marketing before. I've done a marketing director for newspapers. So I've noticed from these experiences that small businesses have to wear a lot of hats, especially when it comes to their marketing. And so that's kind of what made me want to start this business. And I do a lot of social media, I do a lot of newsletters, and I try to focus on strategy. And I also do the Kyle Chambers, all of their marketing as well. So I am here today to hopefully share some insights with you and add some value to your day.
All right. Well, we're happy to have you here. All right, we're going to start off with a foundational question about branding. Now, I've got to tell you, I spent quite a few years in the newspaper business, and not until I came to the Greater San Marcos Partnership had I got to experience branding or rebranding. And so, Jessie, I hated it. And and it was tough because I was one of those, as we transitioned over from the Greater San Marcos Partnership to the Hayes Caldwell Economic Development Partnership, there was some issues there. There's some challenges. A lot of folks think branding is like just designing a new logo or getting some new business cards. But what do you think about that? Why why is branding more than just that, more than just a logo? What makes it really work?
Yeah, so obviously logos are very important. They're a big part of a company's brand. If they weren't, I probably wouldn't be sitting up here today and I wouldn't have a job. So yes, they are very important, but the logo is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to branding. It is the main visual representation of your company, of your brand. But just like all of us here today, you can see my stripy shirt, my jacket, the way my hair is. That's a visual representation of who I am. But if you think of your business as a person, just like we all are, we're so much more than the clothes we're wearing, the way we look, right? So the logo is that visual representation, but we're all so much deeper than that, right? We have personalities, we have values, we have a vision, and that's the exact same thing for your business. And so when you think about branding, yes, the visual identity is very important. That's how, people initially perceive you. That's your first impression. But branding is so much bigger than that, and it's really about how you are making your customers and your potential customers feel. So it's a full experience, not just that visual representation.
Right.
It's so much more than business cards.
Yeah. I was surprised that, we had to go and I had to tear the letters off the front of the building. We changed our color palette, from blue to green. And then, I never knew how difficult that was going to be to go to the website and change every little thing on that website. So yeah, it's a big challenge. Where have you seen it succeed or fail? Have you seen it in your travels? I mean,
sure. Yeah. I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
It's, it can be challenging. And a big part of what I do is I try to make it fun.
Sure.
So, hopefully next time you have to do it, it'll be more fun. But it can really set a vision and a path for a business if it's done really well.
Sure.
I did a brand for a brand new hotel concept back in the day, and it was a luxury hotel set in a 100-year-old train station. And even the hotel developers were kind of confused about how are we going to make this work? How are we going to convince people to spend $500 a night to stay in a nice hotel that's in a train station? But after the branding process, we built this gorgeous brand story and visual identity. By the end of that, we had the coolest plan in place for everything from the uniforms the employees would wear to the art programming in the hotel. And then they were completely sold on, oh my gosh, not only can we charge this much, we can probably charge more. So the branding really helped solidify that vision for them.
Sure. Adreas, we hear so much about AI these days. In fact, the previous two panels spoke about AI. It can feel overwhelming, especially to some small business owners that don't have a big team or tech budget. What are some realistic ways for them to start using AI without a big budget or technical team in their marketing today?
Thank you. I'll start with this. I want you guys to know that the two people next to me are the marketing experts. What we are is experts at knowing, we learned with time what we were doing wrong because we knew from the beginning that we had one or the other. We either had time or we had money. And we knew that we were good at development. So we decided to focus on learning how to do our own marketing by building tools that allowed us to do that. Today most businesses, struggle because we focus on the likes. We focus on the impressions. But at the end of the day, those are just vanity metrics, right? We need to create with purpose. We just talked about branding. Branding is, what does your brand represent? What does your business show to the world, and how do they identify with you, right? So to be able to use tools without breaking the bank, again, a lot of people will tell you, go find 20 tools. You can use just one. Everybody knows ChatGPT. And I tell you, if you're not using it, just give it a try, right? If you're a small business and the number one thing is, who is my customer? Do I even know where they're at? What do they buy? And those are all things that you can use the AI to actually help you walk through it. Because marketing or branding or any of these things without purpose, without understanding who your buyer is, it's nonsense, right? So we gotta be very careful like what tools we're using. Start small, right? Use Google Analytics for your website. You know, see what's happening. Is there conversion, right? Identify what the errors are. So the best thing you can do is think of your business as a solo entrepreneur. We're a team of 3. As a solo entrepreneur or a big business, what can you automate today? What's taking the most time out of your day, and how can you make that better? And you don't even have to think about this. You just have to type that exact question into the AI. My business does X, and we constantly spend 3 hours a week on this one task. How could I automate this task in the most simple way? And you'll have plenty of results. I'll give you guys an example. We used to spend about, every time a company posts a job through us for free, we go and post, we do a post for social media, and then we share it in over 25 groups per city to make sure that we're driving the traffic to you. That process for each one of the jobs would take one of our designers 30 minutes, 45 minutes per job post. Today we've automated these processes so that we can actually just create the image, have the templates, load the information onto it, and then post, right? So a process that would take us 45 minutes now takes 3. So then we're saving a lot of time there. We're a small team, so we can't, honestly, we just, again, we have a tool, it's development, so we chose to do that instead of spending the money because we couldn't afford it. So we learned, but we first had to think about who am I trying to reach? And then from there, it's a much better step, right? Automate your emails, automate your social media posts. It depends where your business is and what your business need is. So.
Can I add on to that?
Sure.
So yeah, and marketing is a lot of automations. So if you're a marketer and you're not using these automations, you are wasting a lot of time. I've learned that from my own experience. So like he said, when it comes to email, those are all automations. You can have that run in the background. Social media, if you're not using a planner or a post, because you have multiple platforms, are you really individually going and posting on those platforms yourself? Probably not. You're wasting a lot of time if you're doing that. So like as a marketer, time is money, right? And so it's how can you do this the best way? And so those automations and all those AI, all this AI talk, AI is the future. So those are all really important things as a marketer too.
You know, I struggle a little bit, and I'll tell you why. With AI, well, actually, I love it now, and Ted, forgive me for saying this, but because he hates it when I say this, but I'm an ex-newspaper guy for 40 years, and I used to work for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and so I'm old school journalist, and my Bible is the Associated Press style book, our rule style book, and style book rule. Yeah. Anyway, so not long ago, I went and I was at a meeting and I recorded it. I think it was a board meeting. And then I pasted it into ChatGPT. And I told it, it can be such a great tool but you got to be specific with what it is that you want, and you know, with what you're telling it. And I said, I want to make this, like a news story. I want to apply the Associated Press style book rules, and then and leave the quotes the way they are. Do not alter the quotes. And what would have taken me probably a couple hours to go through and transcribe my notes or whatever, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, and it was perfect. So I'm warming up to that a whole lot. I feel like I'm kind of betraying the journalistic integrity there a little bit. But what it does for me, because now I'm part of a small team, it enables me to go ahead and do that, move on, maybe go off and try to raise some funds for a luncheon that we have coming up, or maybe, go to this event so I can post things on social media. So I don't use it necessarily as a crutch. It's a help to me, so Yeah.
And I love that you said you have to put in the right prompts, and I've heard that a couple times. It is so true. One example is, I don't know if you guys remember the social media trend. It was the Barbie trend, and you made yourself a Barbie. And so I saw a lot of those, and I actually did one for the Kyle Chamber, and it was, Terrence, Dawn, each person had their own Barbie. And so those came out the way I wanted them, but I sent it to some other people, and I was like, here's the prompt, use this. And I could tell the marketers that did not use the similar prompt, and it turned out so ridiculous looking. So you really do, that's an example of, you have to make sure you make it the ChatGPT with the prompt you want it to say.
Exactly.
If I can add one
Certainly.
thing. So prompting is the key, but purpose is what gets you the results you need. If you just prompt, we can always come up with thousands of images, thousands of content, but again, noise. Purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? By creating this, whether it is an image, whether it is a caption, what do I want out of it? Do I want people to read it? Do I want people to click on it? Do I want to educate? All of those things have to go into your prompt, because he needs to understand what the outcome is that's expected. Mm-hmm. So always think of that, right? Every business, every person, you're right, every marketer is different, so everybody's going to use it a different way, and that's the beauty of it. Make it your own. Yours should never sound like hers or like hers.
Right.
Never. It should sound like you. Because the moment it starts sounding like everybody else, again, the algorithm will never pick it up, because it's just more of the same. So be different. And this is a very tough time. We got to learn to be different in a time where we're producing content or producing whatever we want to produce, truly. It's so easy. So, purpose.
I just want to add one small thing. So, in a weird way, it's starting to feel like an AI summit. We were talking about AI so much today. I had no idea that was going to happen, but it's so important, and it's on top of all of our minds. And I think, a lot of people worry about, gosh, is AI going to take my job? I'm not there yet. I'm not worried just yet. Maybe I should be. But I think for me, AI, and especially related to what I do, and my advice for any of you guys is, don't let AI replace your critical thinking, and don't lose yourself in your vision and your values to AI. So I like your point about, go there with a purpose, go there with the idea of refinement. Sure. But at the end of the day, it still needs to be you.
And from a graphic design point, I'm sure when I can tell a design was made with ChatGPT.
Oh,
and I'm sure you can too.
Yeah.
I haven't bridged that gap yet to do graphic design yet, but all good points. Thank y'all so much. Stephanie, let's dial it back a little bit and talk about something a little more simple. There are those that think certain aspects of email is dead, but we both know that's not true. When it's done right, newsletters can be powerful. How do you see them playing a role in the future, and to build a loyal follower base that can also be a customer base too, a paying customer base?
Yeah, so I love social media. It's a huge, huge part of my job, but you can get lost on there. You can get lost in the algorithm. You can get people just scroll. You might not even show up. And so when you have your own newsletter, when you have your own subscriber list, you own that. And let's not forget about, from the cybersecurity talk, you can get hacked on social media too. So when you have your own email subscriber list, you truly own that audience, and that is so important. So that builds reliability, you build trust. When you show up in that person's inbox, that's just trust building right there. And with a newsletter, you can share whatever you want. It can be upcoming events, it can be promotions, it can be about your background, about your story, about your business. It can truly be anything you want to promote or want your client to see. And so that's a really important part of it. And the good thing about newsletters is, for small businesses, there's a lot of automations that will save time. So, like for instance, today I run all the Kyle Chambers, newsletters, and I do their socials. And so while we're sitting up here right now, I don't know if it's noon yet, but at noon I had our weekly newsletter scheduled out for today that I had already set up. And so, from a marketing perspective, newsletters convert really well too. So when you want to drive results, it's just one more way to convert. So like a normal marketing ROI on average is about 5-1. But when you are speaking about newsletter conversion, you're speaking about 35-1. And there's so many things out there. There's so many different platforms you can use as a small business to get your newsletter out there that don't cost a lot of money. So if you have a limited budget, I think that's a great tool to start with. And if you already have, one of the first things I ask my clients, I say, okay, do you have an email subscriber list already? And 9 out of 10 times they tell me yes. And then I say, okay, do you have a newsletter? And 9 out of 10 times they tell me not yet. So if you already have a subscriber list of people that do business with you, it's another way of keeping that retention. It's another touch point. And so I truly believe in newsletters. I think they're really great for small businesses. So, and good time-saving tool and budget-friendly.
Yeah, and to your point, Stephanie, when I was the publisher at the San Marcos Daily Record, we had a newsletter that had a very large subscriber base, and it got to the point where people were wanting, hey, can you put this on your newsletter? And we, so of course we monetized that. It didn't make a whole lot of money, but we had so many followers to our newsletter that we were able to profit by it. So there was just another revenue stream. So it was great.
Yeah, and from personal experience, I've dealt with, when I was in marketing for the newspaper, I've dealt with COVID happened. What do newspapers do now?
Yeah.
And so it was, this paper might flop. And so we started this digital campaign and we started this newsletter, and it essentially saved that newspaper during the, 2020. And so their email subscribers now are about the same as their circulation that they do with their distribution. So, yeah.
Let's not talk about COVID. Bad. Okay, Jessie. Let's talk about storytelling. I've been nicknamed the chief storyteller there at the HCEDP. I've long said customers buy stories, not products. What role does storytelling play in marketing today, and how can small businesses find a way to tell their unique story?
Well, I think we might be kindred spirits, because I am all about storytelling,
Right.
And I say people, they don't want to buy products. They want to buy into something, and they want to feel like they're a part of something special. And that all starts with a great story. And your brand and your business deserves that. And so when you're thinking about your business and branding, and defining, who you are and what that story is, it doesn't have to be, something dramatic or traumatic or, anything, but just start with some basic questions. What inspired you to start your business? How are you making your customers' lives better with your product or service? Or, what's a unique challenge you went through to start your business? And so, again, you don't have to write a book about it, but if you have something special about you and your business, which all of you do, I promise you, that's what people want to connect with. People want that meaningful connection, and that story is a way to build that human connection with customers, because people are very discerning with their time and their money and their resources now. And so if you can build that special human connection, then that'll get you a lot further.
Thank you.
If I can, I just wanted to say, it's so true. We have to relate, right? People have to be able to relate to our brand, to our messaging, to our stories, right? I talk to a lot of people and I say, look, a lot of businesses are pivots of another business. You copied and made it better, or a lot of people think, well, we're like an Indeed, but we actually focus on a completely different market, right? So what makes us stand out? And then how do your clients relate to you? Why would they choose you? Right? I was talking to a lady the other day. She sells arepas, and she wanted to get into HEB, but she just started 3 months ago. And I asked, why would they take another person's brand off of the shelf to put yours? What makes you different? And she said, well, I sell arepas that have colors. And I said, no, what makes you different, right? And then she started telling her story through social media. where she comes from, why she cooks arepas, what it means to her. And then things started changing, right? People started relating. And that's truly the messaging we want to, always put across is, why should you pick me?
Right. Well, Andres, to your point, a lot of small businesses try different marketing tactics. Excuse me. But some common missteps keep showing up. From your experience, what are those missteps, and how can AI or even just better data steer things in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, we spent about the first 6 months just drowning, right? Just creating content and sending emails, but then we realized that there was no strategy behind it. Again, we're not marketers, we're just AI geeks, right? So we're like, oh wow, we can do so much with AI, so let's just keep creating and creating and creating, which again, it was a perfect and it was a beautiful learning experience. But if we would have had the support, or if we would have reached out to the experts from day one, we could have probably done things a little bit different. So start with the resources. No strategy will kill any work that you do, and you will feel, the problem with marketing is, we want immediate results. We've been taught that, I post a video and then people get millions of views, so I want exactly that. No, that's not it. Your business might not need the views. And why do you want the views if nobody's going to your website to buy, right? So having that purpose, and making sure that you're not just chasing likes. You have to understand, okay? For us, we started looking at our business and said, we started asking all these questions. It almost felt like we were doing a business plan again. So from that, because we actually answered all these questions and started being, understanding in depth our market, our local competitors, what they were doing, we started seeing, the market analysis or where are our customers and what they're buying. And then from there, what we did is we created a business insights and plan, a business plan creator, where you answer with just 21 questions, right? And for us, that was critical because now we're able to, it's a tool that served our purpose, but now it will serve yours, right? We want to put it in your hands so that you can see that business from the get-go and you can understand who your buyer is, where they're at, where should I reach them. So after this, at about 2 o'clock, it will be available for anybody to go log into our website, moillab.com, and you're going to be able to create your business plan, business insights, 100% free for the next month. If you're hiring, do the same thing. But again, that's truly it. It's really, we didn't know who we were marketing to. We knew our business, we knew our customer, but we just didn't know where they were at until we did the research, until we spent the time understanding, building these customer personas, right? Who are the customer personas? The construction worker is not the same as the HVAC worker. The construction worker is not the same as an office entry-level worker. So we needed to make sure that the messaging was clear. We make sure that we could actually go, today we're building mini landing pages, right? Where if we're launching a product, a new tool, we're gonna put that mini landing page out there and then let people go just to that page, not to our main website, because it can get confusing. And then we started seeing that thousands of people were clicking to go to our website, but then the conversion was like 5% because they were getting lost. So now with AI, we've learned to create a website in 15 minutes. And then we can utilize that to actually, going forward, move people to exactly where we want them to be, right? So again, it goes back to the purpose. Make sure that you're not creating noise for your clients, because I get it all the time, and the first thing I do, delete. It has to be something that, do I need it? Then maybe yes, I'll click on it. Does it talk to me? And then of course is understanding if they're coming to your website or if they're coming to wherever you want them to go, they're coming to your social media, but you're still not monetizing, is, okay, when they start, back to the AI, because that's what we use. Ask the AI, why am I not monetizing? What are some people like us doing to monetize? And what can we do better?
I've got a question for all three of you. You kind of sparked a thought in my head, Andres. Do y'all think you can literally overexpose yourself? I know that there are times where I get too many emails from a certain place, and it's sad, because I want to read it, and sometimes but gosh, it's just so often that it almost becomes like white noise to me. Do y'all agree with that?
Yes.
100%.
Yes, fully.
Yeah.
From a marketing standpoint, definitely. It's easy to spam customers, and I think that's why it's so important when you talk strategy. It really is a strategy based with everything when it comes to email, when it comes to social media. I always get the question, how many times should I post a week? I hear I need to post every single day. And every marketer might tell you something different, but if you're not posting with a purpose, if you don't have a strategy, I wouldn't waste your time. And I would say if you can't put a clear purpose to your post, like I would say 3 days a week at least, right? So just make sure it's clear, make sure it's purposeful, make sure you have a strategy behind it. And same with your email, make sure you have things so you don't end up in spam filters. And I would say no more than once a week as well with that. And make sure you have their first name in there. There's all those integrations you can put in there. Make sure it has their first name so you don't end up in the spam. There's so many tips and tricks and strategy that can go into that. And yeah, you never want to just throw a million posts out there.
Right.
And I'll say too, I think a lot of people kill themselves on trying to do all the things and doing all the things all the time. And then what ends up happening is, oh gosh, I'm gonna write 2 blog posts a week. I'm gonna do 2 emails a week. I'm gonna do 25 posts a week. And then what ends up happening is it just feels like a chore, and you don't want to do it. You're struggling to come up with what to do. And then you're not truly engaging with your audience at all. And so I think something to think about even from like a timing and a budget perspective is prioritize what makes sense for you, what feels right for your business and for your customers. If people aren't coming to your website or if they're not looking to you for advice or guidance or education, you may not need blog posts, or maybe they are big engagers on email, so maybe focus on marketing newsletters. So I do think it's true. You can definitely get some fatigue if you email
email fatigue.
Yes,
for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
And just remember, you are a customer too. Even though you have a business, you are a customer. And you've been there when you opened the 12 emails that week from other companies, right? So put yourself in that position. That's the first place to start is, what would they feel, right? Because at the end of the day, you're selling to your client. And they're going to buy from you, again, because it makes you're different. But the moment you start, they might think you're great, but the moment you start spamming their email, remember, it is a privilege to get in someone's email. But at some point, we thought, oh, no, I mean, that's just free access. You give me your email, or I saw it online, I just spam you as much as I possibly want. That's not a customer you ever win. Mm-hmm. That's not a customer you ever win. You don't want to spam. You want to be there for when they need you. That once a month, beautiful. Once a week, depends what your need is. Be there for when your client needs you, but don't make him put you out of view before you even get a chance to be needed.
Stephanie, let's talk a little bit about tactics here. You've worked with a lot of small businesses at different stages of growth. In your experience, what marketing strategies have actually delivered measurable results, and why is it important to take a well-rounded approach instead of chasing just that one tactic?
Yeah, so a well-marketing multi-channel approach is really one of the best ones you can take. You want to be on different platforms. So when it comes to socials, you want to be on your different platforms that work for your business. And there you want to capture attention. What are you trying to do there? Like we talked about email newsletters, you can kind of nurture your audience and convert with those. I also like, newspapers, magazines. Those are all still very relevant things. And also just those, business cards, flyers, those all kind of help with your branding, like we talked about, and they help with like those lasting impressions. And so when all of those things come together, you really have a real good, well-rounded, multi-channel approach. And community engagement is really important too. So like being part of your chambers. And if you're not a member of your local chambers, I highly suggest that you become one. And if you're a member and you're not active, I highly suggest you become active in those. It has helped my business so much. And I've seen a lot of friends that are part of those chambers as well, and it's helped their business grow as well. So when you have all of those things coming together, it's such a good thing. And, every event you go to is, it's marketing. So like if you leave here today, make sure you post a picture, make sure you tag it, your like local chambers, everything like that. And all of those things you'll have a good marketing foundation when all of those things come together.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Jessie. Small businesses often create content across many platforms: Instagram, LinkedIn, email, flyers, you name it. What are some common branding mistakes they make when creating content for different channels, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah, so adding on to Stephanie's point about, having a great multi-channel strategy, yes, highly agree with that. But a big mistake I see small businesses, and not just small businesses, all types of businesses, a big mistake that happens is when there is inconsistency across those touch points. So let's say your Instagram is, bold and colorful and bright and happy, and then maybe your website is outdated and sluggish and not modern or happy or strong at all. And so what happens is, whether it is conscious or not, your customers are picking up on that. And it starts to create a disconnect. It starts to degrade the trust they have in you as a credible professional operation. And so a great thing to do is, and again, this doesn't have to be any sort of big, dramatic, extensive document. Create a set of brand guidelines. It can be a couple pages, as simple as, your logo usage. How are you going to use it? Where's it going to show up? Your color palette. Don't just think, hey, one of my colors is gray, and you just pick any gray across the different platforms. People will pick up on those nuances. Your fonts, make sure you're using consistent fonts across the board. So it sounds really straightforward, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it seems like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a huge deal. People really pick up on those things. So, start with a simple brand guideline, and part of that should also be your tone of voice.
Yeah.
How are you going to talk to people? What are the words and the types of language you're going to use? And once you have that in place, that's like your true north. And so all those touch points that we talked about in your strategy, they'll fall into place that much easier. So it might feel daunting to do a brand guideline, or maybe you need help. That's great, but it will ultimately save you a ton of time and thought in the end.
Andre, speaking of time is one thing small business owners don't have enough of. If someone's wearing 10 hats and trying to stay visible online, what are some marketing tasks you'd recommend they automate first to actually get the results without burning out?
For sure. I mean, it again comes down to your stage, your need, right? If you're just first starting, you're just about to launch, or you just launched, or you want to get to market research, start scheduling your, automate your posts, like you talked about, whether it's for Meta, business, or you can do it through Buffer, or just automate, again, those basic tasks, right? Your captions, your emails. If you are selling, then of course your tactic is a little bit different. Now we're using emails, right? So we can automate emails. We can automate, the landing pages system, right? Where you now have a landing page where people just go there just for them to do the one thing you want them to do, right? So you can automate that flow of like, okay, now people go there, they click, now you have a lead, and then now you're not having to call that lead, they're coming to you. If you are scaling, then you of course you wanna capture those leads more often. So a lot of people will, for example, automate the process of chatting with someone. Instead of them texting you to WhatsApp, add a bot to your website. When I say that we've learned to really go from all of these processes were manual, it takes us a week to design a website, we can create these landing pages with a chatbot in 15 minutes. So it's incredible what we can do, and at different stages of your business. But there's not a perfect answer for anybody, right? It comes down to what your need is. But you gotta sit down, you gotta take a look and say, okay, where am I at? What do I need to be able to do? If there was a time to be a solopreneur, or if there was a time to have a small team and become $1 billion company, it's today. There's never been a better time, because you can now truly wear, I'm not going to say effectively all these hats, but you can do a very decent job while you learn to become very good at what you do. So start with your most, again, like I said earlier, with your most basic need. What is the most repetitive task that consumes most of your time? Most of you are going to find email, social media posting. The thought of having to think of like, oh my God, what am I going to post? And are they going to like it or are they not going to like it? But once you start automating some of these processes to understand, if your AI, whichever one you use, understands your customer persona, then you're just going to say, this week we want to talk about this. What should we create? And then you get some ideas, and then you play with those ideas. And then you get to the point where now it's just a 5-minute process when it started as a 30, 40 hours, you know. So it will save you a lot of time, it gives you, again, it doesn't take away your creativity. It enhances it, as long as you're doing it with purpose.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I think what you say, it's batching content, right? You sit down, you come up with a strategy, and directly through Meta, you know, you can post on multiple platforms through there for free. You don't even need to pay for a program on the side. So I think it all depends as your business, and once you sit there and you create all of your design, you create all of that together, it comes together, and then you batch it out and you schedule it. And Meta will even tell you, like, okay, this is the time your followers are online, this is the best time to post. And when you do that, you are gonna get the most engagement out of those posts too.
Absolutely.
All right, Stephanie. I feel like there's a lot of bad advice out there, especially for small business owners who are trying to do marketing while running everything else. What are some misconceptions you hear often that really hold people back from getting the results they need?
Yeah, so a lot of small business owners, they think, okay, I'm going to post a couple times, I'm going to send a couple emails. They might not have a strategy behind anything. They might not, everything we talked about, there might be no branding, there might be no storytelling, it might just be completely random. They post these campaigns and, you know, it didn't work. They didn't get any leads. They didn't get any likes. Nobody even saw it. Maybe there's like 12 views. And so they start to get discouraged. I've seen a lot of them just give up. They'll come back in a couple months, do the same thing. And so I think it's really important, you know, you're not going to go viral. Marketing is kind of a long game. It's playing the long game. It's testing different things out. What works for you is not going to work for everybody else. So, you know, if you like sports, it's kind of like, you know, you got to practice. You got to put in the practice in order to play the game and win, right? So that's a good one to use. And it's really about, you know, posting with intention. Do you have, you know, your designs, who, what, where, why? When? Did I forget one? Who are, yeah.
Who, where, when?
So like, who is your, it's so basic, but you kind of talked on it a little bit, and it's the basics of marketing, and really just like, who's your target audience? When are you posting these things? Why are you posting them? Like, why should they buy from you? When are you posting them? And what platforms are you posting them on? And I think when you have all those strategies combined, you can set up for a win. But I think a lot of small businesses give up, or things don't work, and they just kind of, you know. And so I think that's why all of this is really important, to have all this background on this.
Thank you. Jessie, when does a company decide to rebrand? What triggers that decision?
Yeah, it can be a lot of things. It can be, you know, maybe you started your business 5 years ago and your vision has changed, or you've really solidified, you know, who you are, and you have a more clear path forward. And so maybe you take a look at your website or your visual identity, like your logo, your color palette, and you think about who you're trying to sell to and who you want to be. And maybe those things don't align anymore. It just feels like a little bit of a mismatch. That could be a great time to rebrand. Another great time to think about rebranding is if you're wanting to scale up. You know, if you're reaching into new markets or trying to sell to a new target audience, and expanding in multiple ways, just taking a holistic view of your brand and seeing, you know, does this still match, you know, who I want to be when I grow up? And if it doesn't, that's a great time to think about that. And one thing to remember is a rebrand does not have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul, right? It can be small, nuanced edits. Maybe it's up-leveling your fonts, or you're, you know, really tailoring your color palette to express who you want to be. So it can be smaller changes that still represent who you are, without it feeling completely daunting and overwhelming.
Thank you. Brian, do we have time for some questions?
Yeah, we have about 6-7 minutes for questions.
Okay, perfect.
In regards to budgeting, how would you be able to, like a small company, if you're not able to budget enough to be able to purchase company cards or flyers being company made, how would you be able to do them at home or on your own time to be able to pass them out and have more consumers?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You take
I think that's a great question. I think what you'll want to do is prioritize, again, think about when you want to hand these out or who you're handing them to. Is that the best vehicle? Is that the best tactic? If it is, what I would recommend is make sure whatever it is you're doing is super polished and professional, because that is a great opportunity to win a customer, but if it's not polished and professional, that's a great opportunity to turn someone away. So one thing I would recommend, there are so many great vendors online for printing. You can watch for specials on like Vistaprint, but also reach out to some of your local businesses. You might have some in your own chamber. We have a lot of great printing vendors in our area, and you might have some good opportunities there and to build a relationship and maybe for some affordable prices.
I'll just add a little bit to it. Look, I mean, again, bootstrap company here, very small. My wife still makes my T-shirts, with her Cricut. So to answer that question, we can't do them at home, right? I mean, she made this one, logo, QR code in the back, and here I am, right? But that's the beauty of it. Get creative. It could be a QR code that you made at home, printed it with your Cricut, and then you just started putting it in places where it actually makes sense to put it, right? Network with, like you said, with purpose. Every time you hand a business card out, it's not just to hand it out. Remember, if they don't need you, they're not gonna keep it. You're gonna go right in trash can before you walk out. So just make sure that you're handing out your business cards and then you're putting your name out there in the right places. And that doesn't cost you much. We can go to all the networking events, print. It does have to be pretty if it wants to be impactful, or it has to look good. But a lot of it can't be done at home. So get creative, And again, ask ChatGPT what you can do at home.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many different platforms out there. As long as you have a good design and it brings people in, there's a clear call to action, good layout, you can create things on Canva. You can use a free version. You don't even have to pay. And, I work with a lot of small businesses that have very small budgets, and I don't charge a lot for these design services either, because I know you guys are working with these small budgets. But I mean, as a graphic designer as well, I use InDesign, I use Photoshop, but you know what I use like 7 out of 10 times is I use Canva. So.
As a new business owner, in the last 3 months, I think I've been approached by 5 or 10 digital marketing people wanting my business. So how do I know when to take that leap? And what do you look for in terms of how do I determine if they're a good fit? How do I determine if they're reputable as somebody who's not experienced in marketing?
I think it comes back to setting up those meetings. See if you're on the same page. Ask them questions. They'll ask you questions. I think, when it comes to that kind of stuff and they answer the questions that you want them to answer, I mean, it kind of goes to that. It's all about filling each other out. You might have meetings where you're like, this is not a good fit. I don't think this is a good client for me. But, it's all about getting to know other people. So that's why I think these chambers are so important, because, I might not be able to do something, but Jessie might be able to do it. Adreas might be able to do it. I'm not a professional photographer. I don't do videography professionally, but I have Jimmy who does that for me. So it's always like, making those connections, giving those referrals, networking. So yeah, just setting up those meetings and having those one-on-ones.
I think too, with any digital marketing agency or group, some key questions or things to look for is a group that's rooted in data. You're going to want to see lots of data about, how they're putting a plan together for you, what their strategy is. How are they measuring success for you and then optimizing? So if they can't come to you with meaningful data and how to take action on that, then probably don't work with that company. And then also determine, is digital marketing right for you? Are who you're selling to or who your customers are they online? And if they are, then where are they, and what's a good plan for that?
I'll just add, obviously knowledge, right? Go to as many marketing programs as you can, learn, from what people are saying, and then when you have these conversations, you have better tools. I'm gonna invite you guys next week, the Entrepreneur Camp in Buda, amazing opportunity to continue to learn about marketing. We're in this subject. We're gonna learn a lot, much more than just marketing, but a big piece is on that, right? Is come in, continue to learn, because it's so easy for someone to just shine all these flashy numbers and say, oh, we're gonna get you to 3 million views, and run. That's not your guy, right? Because again, that might not even be your need. So understand first your need, and understand if what they're offering you is real. Is this something that will actually help me? But continue to learn. The more we learn, the more we understand if what we're being offered is the right fit for our companies.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you all so much. I love this topic. When you started talking about branding, and we had just come out of the conversation about workforce development and retention, could you speak to any stories or observations you've had about how branding can impact the staff, employee engagement, and the atmosphere and energy of our organizations?
Absolutely. So a lot of times when I'm putting together a brand messaging platform for any type of company, really, I should say a company that has employees. A lot of times I'll put together a brand personality, or maybe it's values. It depends on the type of company, what we want to call it. And so maybe it's 5 pillars of what our values are, what our personality is. Oftentimes what ends up happening is we turn that asset into an internal sort of rally cry, right? Like, oh, this isn't just who we are to our customers, this is who we're looking to hire. And this is how we expect, our employees to behave in the workplace. And so it can be sort of that true north for hiring and retention, and knowing the type of person you're looking for and who you want to hold on to.
I'll just add, your brand should always reflect your vision and mission, and when you're able to create that from the get-go, when you hire, people feel it. They know what they're in for. It's not just the money, it's the purpose. It's what drives this company. Do I want to be part of it? We can always hire people just to do the job, but do we hire people that believe in the job that they're doing? And that's a massive difference. So build a brand around it, make sure that everybody that comes into your company understands what that mission and vision is and how it's represented through your brand.
Yeah, and a lot of branding drives a lot of momentum, so when it's done the right way.
All right, well, thank you. Let's give a big hand to Lance, Stephanie, Adreas, and Jessie for their marketing insights to drive real results.